Greetings and welcome to the broadcast. I'm your host, and we have a book now that's published back in the 1400s we can look at for one half an hour, then we have to return it. Rare woodcuts about the creation of the earth, the heavens, societies. Well, let's get started. Upper left-hand corner, the hand of God. That creates the circles of the earth, sometimes called the circle, and then the firmament. Over in the center part is a flat earth. Above the flat earth portrayed is the moon going in a circle over the earth, and then above that is the sun. And they had a geometric equivalent for this when they measured it. Now, during the creation process, the Lord, of course, created the dry land and the animals. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see a vicious little owl tearing apart what appears to be a dove, sometimes called nowadays cremation of care or Bohemian Grove. You can even find this vicious little owl, if you look close enough, on a dollar bill if you live in the United States. You gotta look close, but there it is. Funny how some things never change. As the maps got a little bit more sophisticated back 400 or 500 years ago, they started putting some signs on, some astrological signs, and went from there. And then men started building ships and started to populate the earth, started to travel around. Shipbuilding was in its infancy. And then, of course, the cities, you can see the kind of the moon crescent there, started to be built. Now, some of the guys that made these woodcuts could have had a dad or a grandfather that was burned at the stake. So this is some real history you're seeing here. Here's Moses. He's got the 10 Commandments. He's going to do the best he can. But next thing you know, the commandments are broken to pieces. And then that pole shows the Hebrew children worshiping the golden calf. Didn't take long. This is portrayed in all these woodcuts. Finally, they're able to get things together and get back to the 10 Commandments again. And we can see that they start off as the story tells us. Now here you're going to see some different imagery, religious leaders and some of the kings, how they dressed. The orbs are almost up and down, north and south on this entire woodcut. Here the crescent starts to creep in for some of the wise men, some of the teachers. And the cities just look fantastic. Isn't it amazing how Washington, D.C. almost looks a little bit like this massive kind of a domed structure? Now, this 10-stringed harp is very important. This is mentioned 3 times in the Bible, and these guys try to get this very, very accurately. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and excise a brief portion of Scripture, if I may, and share it with you here. We'll just highlight it, and you can read right now about the instrument of 10 strings and how it was used, singing the praises. And that's what that woodcut was depicting. Okay, let's get back to the woodcuts now. The cities, great detail. Who knows how long it took them to make these woodcuts. And we can see the streets. The size of the buildings is changing a little bit. Civil disobedience and population kind of, I guess you would call it at risk. Upper right, you can see the terrible things they used against the population to herd people around. And the cities continue to build. Now here, the next story is very important. This is a woodcut that symbolizes Jesus Christ being tempted by Lucifer, speaking to him and trying to show him, look, down there, there's all the kingdoms of the earth. This is probably the best woodcut in this entire book, and we don't have much time. We have to show it to you here. But you can see all the nations of the earth portrayed back in a 500-year-old woodcut. Isn't this amazing? Scriptures interwoven with their history. Okay, we can see some things. Artwork. Now look at here. Here's just a little slice of life. In the very bottom, it looks like almost a container of possibly something to drink, like an ice bucket. To the left, looks almost like a water pipe, and different implements are on the table. A fun look at the history. Okay, there's a few things here. The artwork gets better and better. Look at this sword, how it's scalloped in the center. Sometimes the edge could be almost hollow ground. This is very, very advanced for a sword like that old. And that helps us to date these things and enjoy this artwork even more. Well, poor Stephen was stoned in the Bible for his faith in the Lord, and this is that portrayal. Here's Saul of Tarsus. He's learning his lesson right now. And this bird, of course, is like a type of phoenix bird, pops up in the woodcut. Here's a crucifixion. You don't see crucifixions like this much anymore. This is how they were early depicted. Later on in this book, a crossbeam type crucifixion is depicted. Now, at this point, after the crucifixions, the religious hierarchy gets more religious garb on, different kinds of headgear. And this will let you just take a little look. I want you to see these orbs, how they're up and down, up and down, up and down, until they're later on, 100 or 200 years later on after this, they'll start tilting them to try to tilt the earth. Now, here's Jesus Christ and a portrayal of his 12 disciples. Let's just drink this one in. And there it is on the left, that little calf with that round thing around the golden calf symbology. Now here's a weird picture of a papal figure with his head cut off, holding himself on a tray. Now here's the bird-like with no rays of the sun coming from it. And then here's the bird-like emblem with the rays of the sun going down on the religious leaders, religious population. Here's somebody who appears to be pleading. And then the religious population is really getting bathed in these rays as the structure becomes more and more structured. The religious garb also takes on a new light. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to let you look at these different shields and draw from them what you will. Well, those shields were interesting. Now we're going to see an actual crucifixion with the crossbeam style crucifixion. Sad, but we need to see this. And here's their portrayal of the sun and the moon, man and the moon. And back to the countryside views. Now, the Bible talks about these little devices like scorpions and things with sting in their tails. Let's look at these tails. These could deliver a sting, and this is what they thought that scripture referred to. All right, six-sided star, shaven head. Now look at this stuff, this hand jive, what they're doing with their hands. This claw. This almost like the equivalent of flashing a gang sign with a religion. To this day, these kind of gang signs are flashed, or religious signs, I should say, women and men alike. Now here's one out, a couple fingers back and 2 fingers on the outside extended. You could make a study just of these old woodcuts and things of the religious hand gestures, and then compare those to the religious leaders in the world today. Some very, very interesting parallels can be drawn. Here's a type of a surgery, apparently. This is the earliest astrolabe I've ever been able to find. If any of you other YouTubers out there have one that's earlier, I'd appreciate being able to look at it. Let's look at this one closer. Now, a good astrolabe, you can determine where you're at on the earth, the time of day, how long the day is going to last. However, the view bar on this is turned at a different angle than you'd expect. So, this is great stuff, but I'd like to learn more about the astrolabe if any of you out there have some information. Now here we are. Here's Jesus Christ, and if you look down here, we're going to see the 2 trumpets, the angels blowing those trumpets. Down on the lower left, we have the people going to heaven. In the center is what they call the rapture, the resurrection. On the right is people going straight to hell. This follows a very clear-cut biblical message that's been preached virtually since its inception. Now, how about those 2 silver trumpets you saw up there? Why 2? Well, let's look at the brief verse that mentions 2 silver trumpets. You can see it right here. Those trumpets are got to be solid silver. That's the Lord doing the speaking, how to make those trumpets. You know what? Looking at all these woodcuts, let's rest our eyes for about 30 seconds. When you look at woodcuts like this, sometimes it can kind of take your energy out. Let's take just a quick breather, and then we'll come back to the woodcuts in this book, and then they're going to have us turn it in here pretty quick. It'll be locked up in a vault for the next person to check out. Okay, our eye strain break is over. Let's go ahead and get this book open and enjoy some more woodcuts from the past. Now, this next one, I don't want to startle you, but after this page is going to show a depiction of a demon spirit coming down from the heavens, coming down on people, and there are people a little bit. There we are, right here. All kinds of things are happening, and people are running and trying to make sense of it with their Bible. If you'll notice over here on the left-hand side of this thing, you'll see like a demon's kind of horns, and you'll actually see this kind of a symbology on certain cans of energy beverages and around if you look for it close. Okay, a little bit more of the actual construction. We see the archways coming into play more and more. Boy, this is just great stuff. All right, when you had a map like this, you didn't have a compass, you didn't have any meridian marks, nothing. You took the map, and that's all you had to find your way around on the flat earth with the moon. And folks, we're getting the signal. We're going to have to go. This treasure needs to be returned. I think I can sum up this whole thing by probably 3 little sayings from this book. We've looked at history, the creation of history and societies, and those 3 things would simply be these things right here. Well, that's the end of the show. Greetings and God bless all of you. Take care, and if anyone again has an astrolabe that's older than the one we showed here, please link up and let us take a look at it.